we're going to find the quotient of the following numbers. Now the quotient, what does that mean? I've got two numbers and I'll find the quotient. That means that 27.18 is being divided by 3. Okay, so a couple ways that I can write this is I can write it by 27.18 divided by 3. I can write that as a fraction like that. Okay, but that doesn't help a whole lot. In our case, we have to, with no calculator, we have to use the long division symbol and divide by hand. Now what we have to understand is vitally important. We have to take the number that is being divided and put it in the box. And the way I read this, again, it's 27.18 divided by 3. So what's being divided? It is the 27.18. That is being divided by 3. Now the real question in division is, what's being asked right here is, if I have 27.18 things, how many groups of 3 can I get out of that? Okay? So, all right, so we're ready to go. What we need to notice is this 3 is already a whole number, so that we don't have to adjust any decimals. All we have to do is just start dividing. But before I do that, I'm going to bring this decimal straight up, because that's where it's going to go in my answer, right there. Once I establish that, I'm done messing with decimals. Now the next thing is, I'm going to put an answer above that 7, I'm going to put an answer above that 2, I'm going to put an answer above that 1, and above that 8. Now, it's not a matter of just being neat, but with a reason. We need to be neat in the way we do things, just so that we have all of our digits in the right place. It's not just because I want you to write pretty. Okay, let's begin. I'm going to do this one digit at a time. How many times does 3 go into 2? And the answer is 0. If I only have 2 things, I can't get a group of 3 out of that. Okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is start over again. How many times does 3 go into 27? If it didn't go into 2, now let's try 2 digits. How many times does 3 go into 27? And the answer is, I believe, is 9. And then 9 times 3 is 27. So what I want to do is subtract this off. 27 minus 27 is 0. That was nice. You always want to make sure that the remainder is smaller than what you're dividing by. And in our case, we're good to go. Okay? Now, I'll bring down this 1 and start over again. How many times does 3 go into 1? And right above that 1, I'm going to answer that question. 3 goes into 1 0 times. And 0 times 3 is 0. I subtract this off, and 1 minus 0 is 1. And then I'm going to bring down this 8. And then start over. How many times does 3 go into 18? And that is 6. And 6 times 3 is 18. When I subtract this off, 18 minus 18 is 0. I have 0 remainder and no more digits, so I'm done. So my answer is 9.06. Okay, we're going to find the quotient of 28.36 and 0.4. That means that 28.36 is divided by 0.04. Okay, now I'm going to write this as a fraction. 28.36 divided by 0.4. Okay, now, and here's why I write this as a fraction. Because that 0.4, that's a decimal, and I cannot divide by a decimal. So what I have to do is I have to multiply this entire number The 28.36 divided by 0.4, that's one number. I need to multiply it by 1 so that when I get done, this denominator in my new fraction right here is a whole number, okay, in which it's going to be 4, the number 4. Now, I said I have to multiply by 1. Well, let's be careful. I really want that decimal in the 0.4. I want that decimal to be over here. That would be 4. So I have to multiply by 10. Okay? Now, the reason I wrote it like that is so that you can see why the second number gets changed as well. Because if I multiply the bottom number by 10, 10 times 0.4 is 4. It's a nice whole number like I want. Then I have to realize I have to multiply the top number by 10 also. I have to multiply that numerator by 10. And what that does, it does the same thing. It moves the decimal over here. So that is 283.6 divided by 4. Okay. Now that I've got the number the way I want it, let's see, I'm going to write this over here, 283.6 divided by 4. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I got limited room. And now I'm going to put this in the long division form. Okay, now what goes on the inside of that division box? The number that's being divided. This is 283.6 divided by 4. So the 283.6 is being divided. 283.6 is what goes in that long division box. And it's being divided by 4. Okay, so now that I've got my decimals and stuff straightened out, and I'm dividing by a whole number, I'm going to bring this decimal straight up. And this is just my technique. I'm going to put an answer over the 3, over the 8, over the 2, and over the 6. And now we're ready to go. Okay, so the question is, how many times does 4 go into 2? Well, it doesn't. The answer is 0. Then, how many times does the 4 go into 28? And just above that 8, I'm going to answer that question. 4 goes into 28 7 times. And 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract that 28 off. 28 minus 28 is 0. All right, that remainder is smaller than a divisor, and that's good. Bring down the 3, because that's the next digit in line. And then I ask myself, how many times does 4 go into 3? Well, 0 times. It does not. And 0 times 4 is 0. Subtract that off. 3 minus 0 is 3. Then I'm going to bring down this 6 and start over. How many times does 4 go into 36? And right above that 6, I'm going to put my answer. 4 goes into 36 9 times. And 9 times 4 is 36. Subtract that off. 0 remaining, and we're done. So my answer is 70.9. I want you to notice that decimal. Once we brought that decimal straight up from here, the decimal is then in the correct spot. So again, our answer is 70.9. Finding the quotient of these numbers, well, quotient means divide, so it's 7.545 divided by 1.5. So I'm going to write this as a fraction, 7.5, oops, it's an ugly 5, 7.545 divided by 1.5. Okay, now that divisor, 1.5, that's a decimal. We can't do that. So what we have to do, we have to multiply. We have to multiply that whole number by 1. But that bottom, we're going to multiply that denominator, that bottom number, we're going to multiply it by 10. Because all we need to do is get that decimal over here, one place. So that bottom number, their new denominator, is now 1.5 times 10, that's called 15. And multiply the top number, that numerator. Got to multiply it by 10 as well, just like we did on the bottom. So that is now 75.45 being divided by 15. Okay, so let me rewrite that. 75.45 divided by 15. I'll clean this up, give myself some more room. And then I'm going to rewrite some stuff using the long division box. Okay? Now, what goes on the inside? The number that's being divided. Hopefully you can remember. Top number is being divided. 75.45 is being divided by 15. So 75.45 goes in the box. So 75.45 goes inside the box. And it's being divided by 15. Now it's a nice whole number, so we're good to go. All right, bring the decimal straight up. And I'm going to put an answer over each of these digits. Just make sure I don't miss anything. And then start going for it. All right, does 15 go into 7? Nope. Does 15 go into 75? Well, that's about 5 times, I think. Let's try this. 5 times 5 is 25. In my head, I got to remember to carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5. Oh, plus those 2, that's 75. Don't forget to carry when you have to. All right. Now we subtract this off. 75 minus 75 is 0. The remainder is smaller than a divisor. So that's good. Bring down the 4 and start over. And does 15 go into 4? No, it doesn't. 4 is smaller than 15. 0 times 15 is 0. Subtract this off. Got 4 remaining. Bring down the 5. And start over. Does 15 go into 45? Well, 45 is larger than 15, so I should be able to get some groups of 15. Just a matter of how many. I think it's 3. Let's try it. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry my 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Subtract this off. 45 minus 45 is 0. So, my friends, we are done. Our answer is, and the decimal is in the correct spot, which is good. Our answer is 5.03. Okay, finding the quotient. We have 3.036 divided by 0.88. So again, write that as a fraction. 3.036 divided by 0.88. Now, that bottom number is a decimal. We cannot have that. We got to get that decimal moved over. Let me see, 2 places. So the decimal needs to be right there. So every time I multiply by 10, that puts a decimal there. Multiply by 10 again, that puts a decimal there. Well, did you hear what I said? I multiplied by 10 twice. Well, 10 times 10, that's 100. So I'm going to multiply the bottom number by 100. And that makes our denominator not 0.88, but 88. Now it's a whole number. When I multiply the top, I have to multiply it by 100 also, because it's the same thing as what I did down the bottom. Now when I multiply the top number by 100, it does exactly the same thing. It moves that decimal twice. There's multiplied by 10, multiplied by 10 again, that's 100. So our top number is 303.6. So now is 303.6 divided by 88. So, rewriting it, give myself some room here. 303.6 divided by 88. And you know the routine, clean this stuff up because I got limited room, and rewrite some stuff. Okay, the division box, And what goes on the inside? The number being divided. 303.6 divided by 88. 303.6 goes inside. 303 decimal 6 divided by 88. Okay, bring the decimal straight up for my answer. Answer, 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 answer. And, all right, let's go for it. Does 88 go into 3? No, it sure does not. Does 88 go into 30? No, it does not. Okay. Does 88 go into 303? Well, let me see. It looks like a big number, but 88, isn't that close to 100? And for a moment in your head, think about it as 100. How many times does 100 go into 300? So that's that's at least a good guess. Let's try 3. Then I'm going to multiply 3 times 8. 3 times 8 is 24. Carry my 2. And 3 times 8 again, that's 24, but I got to carry my 2, so that's 26. So 3 times 88 is 264. I'm going to subtract this off. And now our subtraction skills are going to come in handy. 3 minus 4. Hey, I can't do that. I got to borrow one from here. But there's nothing to borrow from. So I got to borrow one from here and make that a 2. And now that's a 10. Now I can borrow. So make that a 9. And now that 3 becomes a 13. Yeah, stuff does get kind of messy, but you got to be careful. All right, now we're ready to go. 13 minus 4. That is 9. And then 9 minus 6 is 3. And 2 minus 2, that's 0. So really our remainder is just simply 39. You don't really need that 0 right there. It's good to make sure. Okay, now our remainder of 39 is smaller than our 88. So, which is what it's supposed to be, if we did things right. So now we bring down this 6. Okay, and we start over again. How many times does 88 go into 396? Well, let's remember that the 88, that's fairly close to 100, and this 396, that's fairly close to 400. 100 goes into 400 4 times. I'm going to try 4. Now that may be wrong, but that's going to get me close. That idea is going to get me close. Well, let's try this. And 4 times 8, that is 32. Carry my 3. Carry my 3. And 4 times 8, it's still 32, plus 3 more is 37. 37. Okay. And now I subtract. And oops, I made a boo-boo. And let's see, 4 times 8, that's 32, plus 3 is 35. Silly mistake. See, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. That should be a 5. Okay, so that's 396 minus 352. Now I start subtracting, and 6 minus 2, that's 4. And 9 minus 5, that's 4. And 3 minus 3 is 0. So I have a 44 remaining. Now, and I could not get another 88 out of that. So now what do? Well, I really need to continue because I need to deal with that remainder right there. So what I can do is I can add a 0 right here, and that is 0.6. That's the same thing as 0.60. Okay, I add that 0. It didn't hurt anything, just gives me something else to work with. Now I'll bring down that 0. Okay, now this 0 right here is worthless, so let's get that out of our way. Get that out of the way. And continue. Does 88 go into 440? Well, let me see, this is 88, that's close to 90. And 9 goes into 44, about 5 times. So let's try that. And we start multiplying. 5 times 8 is 40. Write down my 0. Carry my 4. And 5 times 8 is 40. Plus 4 more is 44. Look at that. It worked out perfectly. After I fixed my mistake up above. Okay, we subtract this off, and 440 minus 440 is 0. Have a 0 remaining, and we're good to go. But notice, I had to add that extra 0 at the end just to give me something else to work with. So don't forget about that. You can add as many zeros to the right of that number as you want to. Okay, so our decimal is in the right spot, and our answer is 3.45. Nicely done. Hey, thanks for watching.